Testing. Can you hear me? All right. I'm not sure if you're hearing me on Discord or not. Um, is it okay? How about now? Are you hearing me? I thought I had this thing figured out, but it didn't let me start the way I had been starting things. Okay, we're closer. We're closer. Well, I think let's see. Now, um, I'm still in the transition because I have to figure out my recording solution. But Michael, we're looking to transition this week. So if there's ever a time when you're trying to log into a Discord meeting, or excuse me, a Zoom meeting, and it doesn't open, you just that's why. And hello back to you. All right. Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome out to the Market Watch Group weekly opening bell. Let's just dive right into it. We've missing a few, but we got people here, so let's get going. My name is Scott. I will be your host. Here are the disclaimers, as always. And here is our agenda. Opening futures and news. So futures are up marginally. And that's kind of a follow through of what we had. But it's always interesting when you like I look at it and I'm like, oh, it's up, but you know, any bullish trades I'm in, I'm thinking, okay, we made it through the weekend. But now, how much longer do these bullish trades have? Uh, and are you considering speculation to the downside? Where are you with your posture? Where are you with interpreting the momentum of your posture score? And does it put you in a situation where the door is open for the other side? That's really, in my opinion, what this week's conversation would be about. Good morning, Bob. Good to see you. All right. So what else are we going to do? We'll look at the economic calendar. We'll look at our market posture. We'll look at our mindset for open trades. So, if you have one that you're like, hey, I'm in this, let's talk about it. I'm always going to put that out there. If you're willing to guinea pig, everyone else is willing to learn from you. So if you have a trade on and you're like, I'm not sure where to put my stop, I'm not sure where I should think about profits or right, please let's open it up. We'll look at today's opening range, what we think it means, and not much is what I would say for a shopping list. The watch list itself. Let me ask you this: I'm assuming that your watch list is a combination of things you have from our watch list, not everything necessarily. I'm sure there's things you're like, yeah, I don't like this one. I don't know why he's watching this. And you get rid of it. And then you have things you find from other sources, and you're like, this is a great looking stock. You put it on your list. Oh, great. So let me ask you this question. What's happened to the size of your watch list over the last month? Has it increased, stayed the same, or decreased? Smaller. Mine's smaller for sure. Right? You just kind of are like, oh, why am I watching this thing still? Now, if it's one of your core stocks, that's why. If you think you're possibly going to trade it bearishly, that's why. But there's plenty of things where you're like, I liked it when it was bullish, but now I'm just looking at it like, yeah, it looks like a dog. I'm done with it. Sandy has decreased as well, clearly. Okay, and we'll talk about this week's trading plan section that we're focusing on, which is market posture. So there you go. Let's dive in. First things first, market posture. If you weren't here, I think everyone was, but that's where we ended up. Did everyone end up close to this with me? Anyone lower than this? I'm a 275. I have dropped. So in 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks, we've dropped 4 points. An average of a point a week. Yeah, so we've lost a good chunk of momentum. We're at a 2.7. I'm at a 2.75. You can see volume is really, that's where we're like, whoa, the sellers are starting to add up. The sectors are down to a 0. The rest is okay. Not great. Long term, short term, still at 2.5. The short term's kind of trying to hold up. VIX is still quite low. In fact, surprisingly low. We said down at 15 and a half. Let's see where the VIX futures are, right? Should be interesting. I have 2 charts, and why? I'm not sure why. Okay. VIX. You can see the VIX futures are up, right? The VIX futures are up, but the market is down. I'm sorry, the market is up as well. Let's go look at that. 0.24 on the S&P, 0.13 on the Dow, almost a 0.5% on the NASDAQ, 0.4 on the Russell. Oil down 0.5%, gold marginally. Hopes rest on Powell for rate cut answers. I mean, that's just, see, that's a, I don't know. That's misleading to think that, he's going to come out and give us answers. What they should do is stage like one person at the press conference saying, we want answers. And then someone else says, we want the truth. Anyways. Okay. You're looking at the news here, and you can see there's really, Musk, top one, surprise China trip. Yeah, so I think Musk has felt the pressure of, as he asks to try to reinstate his salary as the stock drops and they lay off. Then they lay off like 10,000. Am I remembering that correctly? I thought I remember there was some layoffs at Tesla not too long ago. Yes. Uh, yeah. Um, okay. Okay. Yeah, it's 50, right? I'm saying it's 50 billion. I saw this article and it said that, there was when companies had underperformed, Nintendo, Zoom, the guy took like a 98% pay cut. The CEO did. S- Stalled all bonuses, right? Had a freeze on bonuses and the executive bonuses. If you look at it, right, if you took 40 billion of his 56 billion for 10,000 employees, you could pay them 100,000 a year for 4 years for that one piece of his one annual salary. It's insane. Anyways, yeah, and then you watch the stock drop in half, 265 down to 138, basically half. They're like, it pays immediate dividends. What are you talking about? Stock gapped up after earnings and is stalling. Where? Still under the 50. I don't know. Couldn't happen to a better guy. That's what I'm saying. Anyways, okay. Am I missing anything in the news? Let's look at the economic calendar. Nothing today. So clearly that's why Yahoo's looking. They're like, we don't really have much to talk about. Tomorrow, still not much to talk about. It looks like it. You're like, there's four things. None of these things are really, we're really not paying much attention to house prices, although they've, just kind of stable. Consumer confidence is expected to drop a little, but still stay above 100, which great. Wednesday's when the jobs information starts. We're expecting 200,000 for ADP. That's an increase. 200,000 is an expanding labor market. Job openings expected to stay the same at 8.7 million. I don't know if I told you guys, but I looked into this number and just was looking at what was it pre-pandemic? It was like 3.5 million. It was really, if you look at let's see if we can take a look. Job openings data. No, I'm not going to find it. I'll find it for next time. Don't let me forget. Okay, what else do we have? Thursday, it lightens up a little bit. We just have jobless claims. None of these other things matter very much. And then Friday, we have non-farm payrolls. Again, it's expected to drop, but we're dropping from a huge surprise last month. A huge surprise last month. So we're dropping down from that, but still expecting 250. 250 is expanding. Remember, anything above 150 really is expanding. So whatever else we feel right now, this still, and for me, this is what we're going to be paying fairly close attention to during the summer months as we're thinking, if let's say let's say this thing drops down to a 10% correction. Okay? It drops down to a 10% correction. And then we're thinking, okay, are we done? Or are we now a little bit worried about are we a little bit worried about correction turning into more? What's going to help inform that? Um, they say the job numbers are strong due to people taking on 2 and 3 jobs. There's always skepticism, and I think a healthy level of skepticism is warranted around jobs numbers. Because they revise them. People say it's political. People say, well, it doesn't account for underemployment. It doesn't account for people who have sort of just like checked out of the workplace, etc. And yeah, I think there's validity to things like that. But at the same time, um, it's tough because I don't know that there's that many jobs for people for everybody to have 2 or 3 jobs, right? And we still have 8.7 million job openings. I think sometimes like people talk about gig work, right? Uber driving, people will do that also, but that's not a quote unquote job because they're not employed, right? I don't think that I don't think, well, I guess I'd have to look. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's why. Maybe those are reported. I mean, I know my daughter did like some DoorDash driving right over the summer. Um she did some DoorDash driving over the summer, and it's like I don't think that added because she did it here and there. Never really. I don't know. That's a good question. But it's the data we have. It's the data we have. Okay. What else? Real quickly. We're close to this one. You can see that we're really starting to see this thing get close to the 90% where it's like it's just not going to happen. We look at July. July is now moving into, I mean, it's just, we're all in the same place. Oh, and look at this. Look at this. We're just barely hanging on. Barely hanging on in September. 50-50 odds, basically. And there's only 2 meetings left after that. If we don't get it there, there's only 2 left. Yeah, we'll see. It's interesting. Let's go look at where we opened. Oh, there you go. So that's what they're talking about. Tesla. That's the China reaction. It was up in the, I didn't look at the after hours or the early hours. So now it's broken its line of consolidation. He went on a trip to China, so they think that it's going to open up um Chinese the ability to sell in China maybe, but I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I think that's early for that much of a response. But this is what happens with a cult stock, and the cult members are always ready to jump back in, especially when it's down. Um, are they already selling there? I didn't think so, actually. Maybe I'm wrong. I thought they weren't in China and that he's trying to get there. Okay. Okay. Um, let's keep going. Where was I? Oh, I need to get to the watch list. Okay. So are you carrying bullish trades and how are they doing? You can see, look at this. Look at Apple. It seems like the NASDAQ would be up even more than it is. Apple's up 3%. Pre earnings. I would love it. That would be great. If we could see a V right here, that might let us get a shoulder, head. If it pops back up, we'll see what happens as it comes over here, though. But do we end up with something out here? That would be great. I'd love to. It'd be fantastic. Maybe it takes longer than that to work its way out. Who knows? AIG sideways. It's flagging a little bit, sitting on top of the 50. Okay. Yeah. Is it worth considering? That's we're starting to look at. Losing on which one? Are you in AIG, Michael? Is that what you're saying? You're losing on AIG? AMD underwater. Remember, we do still have a big chunk of earnings on AIG. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Amazon. Oh, they do have a presence. Okay. 62,000. Uh, yeah, then I guess I don't know. Maybe there's different implications to that news. Interesting. Okay. Good enough. So you can see Amazon has made a nice little recovery from its like spook, but it still has earnings this week as well. So there's quite a few actually that are still reporting earnings. So we definitely have to be careful about those. AXP, I think AXP looks very bullish. Mild pullback, looking for a new entry. Boeing still looks like the dog it is. Bank of America looks bullish, but on a mild consolidation. So I definitely like financials right now, right? I definitely like financials. Caterpillar, Caterpillar. Yeah, I think Caterpillar looks like it has right now having what we call a dead cat bounce. So it dropped hard and it's bouncing back up, but it's really starting to die right as it gets underneath that 50. CMG looks, I mean, look how strong it is. That's why I put it on. It's hard to trade. The options are expensive because look at it. It's $3,200 stock. Next month, it'll be a $60 stock. And I think you'll see that the options will start trading much differently. Should be interesting. That's why we're watching. Capital One, add it to the list of financials that I am interested in. So that's definitely where I have an interest. Um, okay. Oil. Okay, what do you guys think? Is oil gonna ease and let the market breathe a little bit? You can see that we had that sharp climb from early March until about mid-April, early to mid-April. And then we pulled back, and now we're just kind of sitting, expecting to pop more. Okay. Okay. Would we say pop more because geopolitical pressures are worsening, or because of cyclical pressures, higher demand with travel in the summer? We'll go take a look at a chart of oil in a second here. Costco sideways, Delta up but overextended for me. Delta or diamonds, the Dow is sideways. GBTC struggling. If it breaks here around like 54, this level, 53 and a half, 54, I think it's dropping to 45. And then from 45, I think it would be next stop 37. That looks right to me. So 55. If it breaks 55 press, that's the level. I mean it you can see it just doesn't have anything under here. This is so thin through here. Oh, it's gonna bounce from 55. Okay. I mean, it's right there. So if it holds it, I agree. If it bounces, it's gonna test, but 65, look how much resistance it has here. It's gonna take a lot of volume for this thing to break through that $65 level. Here's what I want you to think about, right? Think about how much it takes to get it from 55 to 65. And then it can't get through there. It requires so much more, right? If you think about this is well, we'd have to look at the Bitcoin trading volume, but at the number of Bitcoin per day it would require and how much money it would require to push it through, I just don't know where the new money's coming from right now for Bitcoin. I think it's the same level of adoption. I don't know. Maybe it is becoming increasingly, but uh, we'll see. Another month or two. All right. Okay. I mean, I believe in the technology. I believe in like the blockchain technology. It's clearly a meaningful the way it works. But I just don't think that like Bitcoin, where you're like, oh, it's worth a $500,000. And it's like, what does it do that makes it worth a $500,000? That eventually will impact it. It has to do something, right? Like it has to have some utilitarian purpose. Um, I don't know. We'll see. There's a book. There's a book. It's an interesting book called Extraordinary Popular Delusions and the Madness of Crowds. And it's an interesting book about bubbles and the way bubbles work, right? And it's so for example, tulips. Everybody loves tulips, but is a tulip worth $20,000 for a bulb? Well, of course not, because why would it be? But at one time in the 1600s, it was. Right? Like it's like how? And then you're like, oh well, have you ever seen a beanie baby? Right? Little stuffed animal, little beanbag animal. Like this was worth this was $25,000. You're like, what are you talking about? And it just keeps happening. I mean, at the end of the day, I think that there could be an entire market that exists on the Bitcoin platform, but it would be where stocks issue a crypto representation of stock instead of, I mean, right? Because it takes like 18 months and $10 million to go public with a stock offering. If you do it via a crypto offering, you could do it in 4 months and a couple hundred grand. And so if people started like, if you had like, it could, I think that's a viable like mechanism where you're actually buying something and but it's on that kind of a ledger blockchain like market and everything else. Anyways, but it's just kind of like, I don't, everyone keeps coming out with a new coin. It's like, for what? What does it do? Has to do something sometime at some point, because it's not like the dollar just keeps, you don't have any dollars that are just worth like, I mean, other than like a rare dollar bill, right? Does that make sense? Like if it's going to be used as money, what makes Bitcoin worth? I don't know. Anyways, it's an interesting conversation. Mm. um, right? Press, but then the value is really just because people want Bitcoin. It's really more of a collectible than it is, right? Like it's not, I mean, gold's value does come to some extent because of its basis of a fundamental or of an economic foundation. Same with the dollar. And so it's kind of like, well, is it to store value? Is it to transact? I think Bitcoin is still confused on what its role is, right? Like, is it an asset or is it a mechanism? Anyways, it should be interesting to see. So I think that the technology will be around, but I think that there's just it's the same thing like the for me the NFTs. That's what's going to happen. I was like, oh, the NFTs, there was this huge craze. And it's like, these cartoon monkeys, and someone paid $1,000. I'm like, you paid $1,000 for a cartoon monkey? That's worth $10 now. Okay. Where are we on our list? Great Discord conversation. Oh, for sure. For sure. For sure. Love it. GE. I'm bullish on GE. If GE pulls back, I want to trade GE. I love GE Aerospace, but you look at it, it just keeps on knocking higher. Gold. You can see gold, same as the oil, it's pulled back, but it's like, is it pulled back because it's going to bounce higher? Or is it pulled back because this was overly steep and it needs to come on back down towards that 50? We'll see. Google's retracing. It had a smashing earnings report. This is not surprising at all. Small caps still struggling. They're under the 50. I'm not convinced by today. Today doesn't change anything for me. In fact, today, like we said, we said it could go a little higher. Still, that's not going to like be like, oh wait, never mind, we're bullish, and think it's going to right. If you're in it, you're in it. But for me, what we are right now, especially if you watch and you see the volume diminish, the volume declines. Then what does that tell us? It tells us we're going to have a lower high. It tells us, yeah, the expectation of a correction into the summer continues to increase. Meta looks like it's rolling over. Microsoft looks like it's rolling over. Micron, remember, Micron is one that I'm looking at. I think this is the chip one where if this thing rolls over and then it busts into this, I think we could end up back down here. So I'm looking at this one for several reasons. I think chips are feeling some pressure. I feel like this thing could right, it hit the 50 and it tried to bounce and it's just not going anywhere. Great. So my thought is if this thing rolls over and it breaks the 50, we're going to be at 95. So I think there's some good downside potential on this thing. Down on this one. Okay. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't look good, right? It's just dying on the vine. Be ready to shut down if this thing starts to roll over, because if it breaks this gap, there's nothing there, right? You can see we have nothing, no price action at all. It's very hard for stocks to stabilize when they've never, ever, ever had action in there. Netflix down. Nvidia, like, which one was it? Micron. Was it Micron? Yeah. Trying, sputtering, having a hard time. Picard under the 50 earnings. QQQ struggling right at the 50. You can see it opened higher and it's already given it back. We're only up 0.07 now. SPY only at 0.22. So you can see we're struck. Look at it pinch. We're getting up here and it's just like, remember what we're comparing this to. over here where it goes up and then if it looks and sputters. Our concern is that the next one of these puts us down here. And that's what you can see. That's, I mean, if it drops down to here, that's still up in our uptrend on a long-term basis. But if we get something like this again, whoops. That puts us right into that level, right? And then if you got another one of those, where would it put us after a bounce? Probably down to that level there, if I was able to move that off the chart. But I can't. Okay. So we just have to, look. I'm feeling some skepticism to this market. I don't know about you guys. But I am, and look at this, just look at TSM. I think outside of the market, buying a put on the market itself on SPY, because the VIX is below 15. Remember that. Right? Below 15. It's still on the table, but if I was looking speculatively, I'm looking for where did things maybe get a little overblown? Well, look at chips. They went from 80 to 160. Maybe it's supposed to be down at 100, 110. I don't know. Are any of you speculating bearishly? And if so, where? Where? Okay. Okay. Let's see. Not yet. All right. Yeah, and I agree. It's barely just coming into focus, I think. Here's the VIX today. That VIX is just kind of dropping and sitting, and we're like, oh, if this thing turns, we're watching it. We're waiting, watching carefully. Waste management looks a little overextended, like it's going to pull back. Walmart, just flat. XLB, materials. So the materials had a bullish little swing, but it looks like it's running out of steam. That looks fine. Communication services, not sure. Had some interesting divergence between Google and Meta. Energy, oil and energy is up a little, but it's still okay. We look like we might see something. Financials looks okay. Industrials looks okay. Technology, oh, see now technology is really looking like it's stressed out. A heavy dip, and now it's struggling and sputtering under the 50. That's concerning right there, right? That's concerning for us. XLP. So Staples made a surge. That looks a little defensive, as does this, right? Like the little subtle things that we talk about for so long. I'm like, oh, there's nothing there. There's nothing there. And all of a sudden you're like, well, look at that. A little bit of a surge in utilities, a little bit of a surge in Staples. Energy moving up. Here's the thing. This was our trajectory for a minute. Right? It was going like this, and we're like, boy, that's steep and fast. So do we think it's doing that again? Well, already you can see that it's like maybe going up, but it's a little bit like of a different angle. Or maybe now, if this thing cannot get back up to here, then we start to see. So look back. If you look back here, it was steep, and then it dropped, and then it had one more move, and then from that point, we moved into this consolidation. Lower high. Everything up until that point was higher highs all the way up. Just like this, higher highs all the way up. And then all of a sudden what? So yeah, if we get a lower high here, that would be fantastic. Fantastic. Okay, well, sounds like everyone's a little bit more leery to put trades on. Understandable. Sounds like you're managing some things. I'm sensing a little bit of reluctance to the concept or to the thought of bearishness, which is fine. I'm not trying to convince anyone, but let me ask you this. Are you at least willing to hedge it right now? Puts. Fingers are crossed for May. BAC. Just make one. There you go. All right. Well, then, real quickly, let's touch on the last thing. The trading plan. Okay, so I said I was going to post and I forgot to last week. So I'm going to post twice this week for both of these, 1 and 2. Let's talk about implications. I feel like as long as if you have questions about any of the routines or what does the market posture mean, let me know. But I think that if you're feeling good about reading the market, then the question is, how are you feeling about your ability to translate into these implications here? And that's what I want us to have a conversation about in the chat area of Discord for trading plans. Let's talk implications. So 3 things from the first 2 sections. Number 1, mission statement. Number 2, weaknesses. Number 3, implications from your market posture. I'm trying to highlight the areas of each of these sections. I mean, it's all important because it's all about defining and standardizing your trading plan. But implications is what carries forward. Weaknesses from your strengths and weakness assessment is something that you're going to use to set goals from. Right. And so it's like these things are the things that as we move forward tend to be the focal points that help us to anchor and work towards improvement. So, okay. All right. Well, what's next? Tonight, we're going to have a Bitcoin conversation. Yeah. We'll talk about Bitcoin. Maybe we'll talk about the Fed. We'll talk about the weather. But we have cocktail hour. There's a little bit of market talk, but there's also just like relax, meet your fellow cohorts, conversate, pontificate, whatever kind of Kates you want to do. Awesome. All right, guys. Well, I'll see you in a while. Have a great rest of your day. If I don't see you, I'll see you hopefully tomorrow. Tomorrow is our final options. And then we move into the May. I don't know. May's just going to be interesting. So thank you, Press. Thank you, Sandy. Thanks, everybody. See you soon. As always, happy trading.